My name is Alaina Tennison from KCSU, and I am here with Deeper at the Skylark Lounge in Denver, Colorado. This is the second to last stop of their U.S. tour before heading off to Europe. Welcome to Denver. We're glad to have you. Yeah. So I know you've been touring since late September. I'm curious, which of your touring destinations have been your favorite so far?
Well, I think Montreal was really great. New York and LA were awesome, but most surprising for me was Baltimore. I had a really great time in Baltimore and great energy in the crowd.
Denver is going to be great.
Yeah. So your first full U.S. tour was opening for the Districts in 2019, if that's correct. Looking back, ceiling is falling down. Looking back, how was that experience in comparison to this tour so far?
I thought it was great. We learned a lot about how to be on the road and how to pace ourselves, and the Districts guys really took us under their wing and, just showed us how to have a good time and how to be professional on the road. And it's cool to play a lot of the same venues that we did then and headlining at this point.
Do you guys enjoy touring? Or is it kind of not for you? Or do you like the lifestyle?
It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, Nick's handing me the mic because he knows I agree. Yeah.
What about it do you like?
I just like being with my boys, to hang out with my friends and annoy them for long periods of time.
31 days.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know.
It's like my favorite thing to do in music is like every day you have to kind of like prove that you can do it again and again and again. And there's like new challenges with like every stage you play, and every day is like either long or something's happened, and like, getting through that and being able to like be good on stage every night is like, cool to be able to count on this band to do that. So I don't know.
Yeah, we also get to go to places like Little America, and we got like breakfast sandwiches this morning in the middle of Wyoming that took 30 minutes to get. And
That's today's challenge.
they were really good. And so if I wasn't in a band, I might have never have had that experience. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I just like being able to see new places. Obviously, like being able to hang with your friends is like a huge part of what makes it really enjoyable. Seeing people get really excited about songs that you've been working on writing is really fulfilling. But yeah, I just love being able to like wake up early and go like briefly explore like a new city, even for only like an hour or something like that.
Tell me more about the Chicago music scene. I know you've spoken before about kind of growing up in the DIY scene, and Animal Kingdom as well, basement shows. Do you kind of miss that era?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. In some ways it's like this, with like DIY venues, it's like so this, at other times in interviews, but it's like a Peter Pan effect where it's like you get older and you're like, oh man, there aren't DIY venues like there were when I was 23. But also, it really just seems like in Chicago there aren't as many DIY venues as there used to be. And Animal Kingdom, at least, when we were all coming up in the city, it was just very formative in being able to see a lot of like other like up and coming bands that were kind of burgeoning, in a scene that was really exciting at the time.
I think like also it gave everybody a chance to like be bad at playing music and learn how to do it. So it was like super helpful. And like Drew's saying, like, we're all like north of 30, so if back when we were going like to DIY shows, there were like people of all ages, but now it feels like almost maybe that's changed a little bit. There's a really good up and coming like group of people making music called the Hallow Gallo. It's called Hallow Gallo. They do like a print and everything like that, and like a magazine, and they're all really good bands like Horse Girl and Lifeguard and stuff like that. So they're doing it, and we're just we get to watch them now. So
yeah, but it to that end, it does feel like there's a little bit of a gap from like the era like a decade ago when we were coming up in this like new scene that started to emerge. But yeah, it's nice to see like younger kids kind of like forming their own community and stuff like that.
Who are some of your favorite Chicago bands?
I really like the Hex, and Ulna, and Lifeguard, and I like Free Range. I like Freako. I like Dead. Who am I forgetting? I don't know. Phenome.
We were just on the road with Mia Joy. They're awesome. Check them out.
So, Nick, I'm a huge fan of your voice. It's very reminiscent of 80s alternative rock and really reminds me of one of my favorites, Robert Smith of The Cure. Do you get that a lot? And if so, how do you feel about that comparison?
I've never gotten that before in my life, actually. No, I got it recently. There was a guy in Austin. I mean, I got it a lot more than just that show, but there was a guy who came up to me and he's like, "You sound like Robert Smith," and he walked away. And then he was like some like shit poster, like on like a gothic forum, and like he's like, it was like Sextile was playing the show next to ours, and then it was us, and then there was like, he was like posting about like every band that played and like had like a really snarky thing. Like paragraph about it, and for our paragraph he's like, "And to deeper, I'm so glad I got to tell their lead singer that he sounds just like Robert Smith." And I still can't tell if he was being like if he was like a jab or if it was like sincere, you know. Yeah. But I really wasn't trying to do anything like that, but it just came out like that, so that's just how it goes. I honestly was trying to sound like Kim Gordon. Now I sound like Robert Smith.
Pitchfork set up the record careful. Nearly every song sounds like a long-lost gem from post-punk's 1980s heyday, with subtle updates from 4 subsequent decades of indie music. Who are some of your musical influences as a band?
I'd say Sonic Youth. We don't really say that, but they definitely are.
Oh boy. I mean, certainly like Television, I think that's like a really formative, a really influential band for us for sure. The guitar interplay and, that's a huge inspiration for me at least.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny. Like, we get Television a lot. I like Television, obviously, but when we first started the band, I really never listened to them, and then people were like, "You guys sound like Television." I was like, "Oh shit." My like most formative years was like Wilco was a huge influence on me, and mostly just like there's like a live record called Kicking Television, and it's got such good guitar playing on it, and there's a song in particular called "I'm Trying to," at least that's what you said. And there's like a breakdown solo thing at the end, and like if you listen to that and you listen to like some of my guitar playing, like it's definitely like very much what I wanted to do.
It's definitely copyright.
It's copyright infringement. And actually, the way I heard about it was I was visiting my brother Jack, who's here, at his dorm in Missoula, Montana, and we did a gravity bong. And I got so high before going to dinner with our parents that I was laying in his dorm room and he was calling up all of his friends like, I need eye drops. Nicky's got red eyes. You're going to see my parents. And he's playing it and I'm like literally like tripping, like, cause I was like 15. I never really got that high before. And I like seriously, like that changed my life just listening to that record and him playing it on there. So thank you, Jack. But
And he says that solo is like him interpreting his own anxiety attacks too. So it's like, that's
Jeff,
like what you were going through.
I was going through it.
Yeah, yeah. I think some bands that come to mind, just off the top of my head, as far as like influence for deeper, like Swell Maps, Feelies. Yeah, I don't know. Those are 2 right there.
Women.
Yeah.
I was trying
to stay away from the most obvious one.
Yeah, Deer Hunter.
But it's the most honest to say women. Yeah. Yeah, Deer Hunter. Yeah. Yeah.
Shiraz, something I've noticed watching your performances is how laser focused you are, and has a certain precision and energy to it. And I'm curious about your musical background as a drummer.
Thank you. It's kind of been all over the place. I started playing symphony orchestras when I was a kid and then drumline. But honestly, where I get the most inspiration is from like going to powwows as a kid, and just feeling that energy from the drum group and then the storytelling from the dancers, and I just try and incorporate that on how I perform and play.
What about all of your musical backgrounds? I'm always curious because I think some musicians are they're so classically trained, others are just self-taught. Do you think that really matters?
No. I'm just joking. No, yeah, like I just learned, for a brief stint, like my uncle lived with us when I was growing up, and he had a bunch of guitars, and so I just started playing just by having like the instruments around, and totally self-taught, and just spent a lot of time in my room by myself, just like just trying to learn songs from people that I idolized and things like that. And yeah, you just kind of like use that as a foundation, and then eventually start playing with other people. And I feel like that's where you really learn. That's where you really level up your chops, is actually like figuring out how you can sort of like fit in with other people, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I was in orchestra. I played like upright bass, and I was in jazz band and like choir. I got kicked out of choir and orchestra. I don't want to get into it, but it's kind of a long story. But I think the like Drew was saying, like you need to play with people. That's the best way. But like I never really like learned how to read the music. I would watch people's fingers, and that's how I would learn how to play whatever we were playing in those classes. I think like the most important thing I got was a loop pedal, and then just like being bored in my room and just being able to like make songs by myself. I never really liked learning people's songs. I liked making up my own stuff. So that was more helpful.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think the most like formative thing for me was I was obsessed with Sonic Youth when I was in high school, and I didn't really have anyone who I could play in a band with that wanted to sound like that or wanted to make noise like that. So I just had a loop pedal and a bunch of effect pedals, and I just had to like do it myself. And I think that still carries on to this day. I mean, I'm playing bass now, but but still, like my approach to like sound, I think, is kind of similar still. So I think that those first couple of years where you're really playing kind of always carries on in some way.
Yeah, and you're a good guitar player too. We'll give him that.
I think also, and maybe this is jumping ahead with your questions, but thinking about like looping, and I think that was like definitely an influence on on Careful on the new record, because of the limitations of the pandemic. Like a lot of the songs were written instead of like in a room together, like organically. It was iterating a lot more on parts, in the confines of our own apartments. And so not only just like iterating on different parts again and again and again until you found the right thing, but also figuring out how to like loop additional parts on top of itself, and kind of create different like textures through that was definitely a change on this record versus the previous ones.
So music is obviously a huge part of your lives. If you all weren't musicians, what do you think you would be?
I would love to work in a forest for the DNR or something. Just be out there.
Oh, I think I would be like an urban planner or something. I love like history books on like how cities and communities are formed, and so that would definitely be something I would love to do.
I had to figure this out when the pandemic hit, so I guess I first started growing weed. That was really fun. And then I started making wine, so I have a wine company now, Communion Wines. Check us out. And then I became a carpenter. And then I quit my job as a carpenter. I don't know. I think I might be a stay-at-home dog dad if I don't do music. Shout out Natalie, my wife.
Ambitious.
Yeah.
I'd get my CDL. I'd be a truck driver.
Yeah.
So I understand that you initially formed as a surf and dream pop band back in 2014. I do my research. Tell me more about that. What made you pursue a completely different musical direction?
So, we ended up like kicking out two of the members that were like kind of, one of them like now we're friends, but weren't for a while. Our friend Caroline Campbell, who's an amazing singer out of Chicago. She like sang with me, and we did like harmonies and stuff. So like we didn't want to like do that anymore. And really the reason why, I mean, we had just a falling out in general, but like we just like were playing with all these like really loud, fun bands, and everybody was very energetic during the shows. And then like we would play this slow dream pop stuff, and it looked like everybody was like falling asleep. So like when me and like Shiraz and like at the time like Drew hadn't joined the band yet, and like it was like me, Shiraz, and Mike, our old guitar player, and we were just like, we just want to play like stuff that like people are excited about. So like we're just like, let's just do what we like, you know, make it a little more interesting. And so that was kind of like the reason. It's kind of lame, but and then we wrote Pavement, which is not a very fast ruckus song. So then like we did that, and then like Drew joined the band shortly afterwards, and like literally all of our friends like said how much they hated the new band and how much they loved the old band, and we were like, what the fuck, like you should have made us feel like that when we were doing it. Maybe we would have pursued it more. But it was just more like we just needed a change. We didn't feel like we were being like ourselves, kind of. Yeah.
I read that it took you 2 years to record your self-debut album, Deeper, if I'm not mistaken. And how was it recording Careful with Sub Pop in comparison?
Well, so with the self-titled, well, we had no money, so it was recorded very piecemeal with our very good friend Dave Vitrena, who has recorded all of our records. And so we did it like over 5 different sessions at our practice space, just recording like 2 songs at a time. And so I think the self-title has a bunch of different sounds on it because you're kind of getting these different moments of, you know, what we were interested in. And furthermore, it was still us like trying to find, you know, pin down what our sound was going to be. So I think it's still very exploratory. And I think with Careful, it was a little more, you know, a vision of a band that kind of like knows what we wanted to sound like, or at least like felt comfortable in our skin and felt more comfortable pushing boundaries. So I think that's the big difference. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the difference.
One thing, we recorded it before we signed with Sub Pop, so like we honestly recorded it with no mind in like where it was gonna be. So that really didn't have an influence at all on us.
So it's gonna be the next record where it falls off, where we're actually influenced by being on Sub Pop. We're like self-conscious of.
Be produced by Justin Vernon. I'm getting a Grammy.
Drew, you described Careful as an album about looking out for one another. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, you know, as I said, it was like largely written like during the pandemic, and I think, you know, so much of like Auto Pain was like dark and brooding, and I think, you know, as we were writing Careful, like we were all like trapped in our own apartments and like really like jumping on like Zooms or whatever with each other and like talking about whatever is like kind of what got us through. And I think also just the pandemic, by narrowing each of our worlds, like at least for me, like made me think about was like what's actually important in my life, right? Like my significant other, my family, like friends, the band. Like I think it, you know, made everyone sort of like really think about what they want to be doing with their lives. And I think as a result, a lot of people like moved different places or, you know, had a career change or something. And so, yeah, I think as we were writing the songs, it was just like, you know, just kind of a reminder about how much we want to be making music. And I think a lot of other bands kind of like had a opportunity to kind of like fade away as a result of the pandemic. And for us, it was like doubling down and saying like, we want to do this. And, you know, just kind of making sure that like we all like we're doing all right throughout the pandemic, more or less, I think was the vibe I was going for when I said that. So, yeah.
So my last question, it's what do you hope listeners get out of Careful? But really, what do you hope listeners get out of all of your music?
It's a great question. I think for me is just to be able to feel things in a non-verbal way, you know? Just feel all different types of emotions through listening to our music is my goal, at least.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot lately when I'm playing music or writing or doing anything, like just about like the 17-year-old version of myself or like 13-year-old version of myself, and just wanting to be, you know, like making music that would excite that person. You know, I think like, you know, music got me through a lot when I was like a teenager, and just to make some sort of music that would like make a kid like me excited when I was young would be like the greatest accomplishment to me, I would say. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want people to like want to start bands and play guitar and stuff, but like mostly just dance. I just want people to have fun. I don't know. I feel like some of the songs are like serious, but like we're not really serious people in the general thing of our lives, and so I want people to have fun. I hope people go crazy tonight. And if they don't, I'm gonna flip out. Go total Anton Newcomb on stage.
Yeah, something that I appreciate about what we do in Deeper is that like I think people can experience anger and frustration and joy and relief and sadness, and I want that all to be kind of felt in the period of about 45 minutes. I think that's the goal.
And we want circle pits too. That's all we want really out of her.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Again, this was Deeper at the Skylark Lounge in Denver, and I'm Alaina Tennison with KCSU. Thank you all so much.